Okay, so scene 5, which is thankfully another short scene. Now, if you turn to the start of this scene, you should be now on page 30. And a summary that you could write at the top of this page would be that Lady Macbeth reads a letter from her husband detailing the encounter with the witches. She immediately resolves to have Duncan killed to fulfill the prophecy. A messenger brings news of the king's imminent arrival, and then Macbeth appears and they begin to plot the assassination of the king. So you'll see that this takes place in Macbeth's castle, which is in Inverness, which, like all these places mentioned, is a real place in Scotland. And so that you know, it's near Loch Ness. So in Scots Gaelic, Loch means lake. So Lake Ness is Loch Ness, and that's right near the real Inverness, which is a place you can visit. So I'm just going to pop up on the screen a picture of Inverness. So here is an image of Inverness today, and this is just to give you an idea of the beauty and just the regalness that's referred to in the coming scenes. This image is going to represent Lady Macbeth throughout the rest of the play. This will be the servant that heralds Macbeth. And we're going to keep using warrior Macbeth because he's not yet king. The scene begins in Inverness, where Lady Macbeth is inside alone reading a letter out loud. They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whiles I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me, Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with, Hail, King that shalt be! This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not look to lose the dews of rejoicing, by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell. Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature, it is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should intend it. What thou wouldst highly, and wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Thou dost have great Glamis, that which cries, Thus thou must do, if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do, than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal.
The king comes here tonight.
Thou'rt mad to say it. Is not thy master with him, who, were it so, would have informed for preparation?
So please you, it is true. Our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who, almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message.
Give him tending, he brings great news. The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits, that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe-topful of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and the passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pile thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, Hold, hold! Enter Macbeth. Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by the all hail hereafter! Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant. Dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight. And when goes hence? Tomorrow, as he purposes. Oh, never shall the sun that morrow see. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters, to beguile the time. Look like the time, bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put that night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. We will speak further. Only look up clear, to alter favour ever is to fear, leave all the rest to me. Okay, so that is the end of scene 5. And probably one of the more awkward scenes to read out loud, thanks to the imagery of Lady Macbeth. So it's important to note here that this scene introduces us to a power-hungry Lady Macbeth, who sees having honour and kindness as weakness, and she straight away is questioning her husband's courage. So there's a strong theme of gender roles, particularly 17th century gender roles, and gender roles based on what is seen as natural. So the idea that women should be the kinder, more passive, gentler ones that are nurturing, and that men should be the more violent and aggressive and ambitious ones. That theme plays out in two ways in the play. The first is that both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth have to sometimes work with or deny those natural gender roles. So here, Lady Macbeth, whilst on the surface she's portrayed as more masculine, is shown having to intentionally deny her feminine side and take on a traditionally masculine role to be able to commit murder. And we'll see that this is her undoing as she reverts to a very regressed feminine state toward the end of the play as madness overtakes her. So it's important to note that the stage direction only says reading, and it is only from context that we can tell on page 30 that this is a letter from Macbeth. Now the first word that I want you to look at is on line 4, and the letter refers to mortal knowledge. So mortal here means that which mortals can possess. So he's saying that they had more than mortal knowledge. So they knew more than what mortal people know, suggesting they're not mortal, that they're supernatural. If we keep going down to line 12, Macbeth finishes the letter by saying that Lady Macbeth shouldn't lose the dues of rejoicing. So dues here means that which is owed to you. So she shouldn't lose out on being joyful as she is owed to find out that Macbeth will be Thane of Cawdor and king. Now this whole letter that she reads out loud tells us Macbeth's mindset, his view of the witches, and clearly that idea is still running through that he believes them 100%. He believes he will be king. Otherwise he wouldn't have told his wife. Now go down to line 15 and highlight it from thy nature, it is too full of the milk of human kindness. So this is an important line. This is the first clear line that shows what Lady Macbeth thinks of her husband. And basically she sees his kindness as a negative. So that's something you can record in the start of your booklets under your quote page, that this is Lady Macbeth's mindset. And it's repeated down 2 more lines when she says, it's not without ambition, but without the illness should intend it. So this means you're not without ambition. So she acknowledges that Macbeth has the ambition to want to be king. He too is power hungry, but he doesn't have the illness. So sort of the mental illness, the psychopathy, the ruthlessness needed to kill a good king. So basically, he won't be able to accomplish his ambition. Again, another excellent quote to record and to aim to remember, because you'll be able to use that in a lot of different essays. If we continue going down, I want you to look at line 25, and this is all still on page 30. And she's saying that she wishes that Macbeth could get home so that she could pour her spirits into his ear and then chastise him with the valor of her tongue. So what she wants to do, chastise here means drive away. So what she wants to do is put ideas into his head and chase away any thoughts he has against killing Duncan to become king. Another great one, a very common essay question that we get you to practice with, is whose fault is all of this? And sometimes that's worded as are the events of the play Lady Macbeth's fault? This would be a good quote to use. She's clearly intending to convince Macbeth to kill Duncan. Underneath, you might want to circle the word round. She says, all that impedes me from the golden round. So she's saying, I want to chase away every idea that keeps me from the crown. So the golden round here means crown. If we keep going down, so now we're at line 28. She uses the word metaphysical, which means supernatural. So there are two references to supernatural. First, in Macbeth's letter, he alludes to the witches being supernatural by saying they have more than mortal knowledge. And Lady Macbeth, in her bluntness, just comes out and says it. He says, these metaphysical aids, so these supernatural helpers, have given us the way. They've crowned us, she says. So we'll go over to page 32 now. We see this re-emerging theme of madness when she says to the servant, you're crazy, she basically says. She says, thou art mad to say it. So you're crazy to say that Macbeth and the king are coming here. So this is like almost a little dig at the fact that this whole thing is crazy. Her whole plan is crazy. And it's crazy that she's thinking about murdering Duncan and then he's going to be there that night. So what are the chances? And she makes sure that Macbeth is going to come too. And luckily he is. So she's not going to have to do this all on her own. So we go all the way down when the servant exits. So this is around lines 49. And this is a place where I would get you to write a heading. As though this is an entire part of the play all on its own, because this monologue of Lady Macbeth, so keep in mind right now she is alone on the stage, it shows that she has no confusion whatsoever about murdering Duncan at this point. We'll see that confusion come in later. And the first thing she says is the raven himself is hoarse. So if you don't know this already, a raven is a symbol of death. And so she is saying that this foretelling, this symbol or this omen of death is calling out Duncan's own demise. And it's also a symbol of the evil parts of nature as well, which nature being corrupted or nature being turned evil occurs throughout this play as well. And we see this sort of demonic undertaking where she calls on spirits. She says, come you spirits. So she's talking directly to these unseen spirits in the room on the stage, and she's calling them to come to her. And she says that tend on mortal thoughts. Now here the word mortal means something different from Macbeth's letter. It means sinful thoughts, or in this particular case, murderous thoughts. So you're tending on murder, thoughts of murder. And then she says, unsex me here, which is one of the more provocative lines. But it basically means make me like a man. So take away my femininity, all my feminine sensitivities, and help me go against nature. So what nature has made me, which is a woman, which is nurturing, tender, loving, take that all away and make me like a soldier, like a man. And she goes through to tell them exactly what that means. And it's all imagery. She doesn't want this literally to happen. This is just figurative. So she says, fill me up with direst cruelty, make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse. And if we keep going down, if we look at lines 49, she says, come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall. So I won't go too far into it, but basically in medieval times, people believed the body was made up of 4 things. And I believe it was gall, which is what we now know as bile, blood, plasma, and phlegm or spit, I think. And I might have those 4 wrong, but I know that one of them was gall. And gall, because it's bitter, if you've ever gotten very sick and you've thrown up so much that all the food comes out, the yellow stuff that comes out at the end that's incredibly bitter, that is gall. And she's saying, take away the milk that she would have naturally produced to feed babies, so that represents femininity, and replace it with gall. And it was believed if you had more gall, that means that you were tough, you were able to do brutal things. If we keep going down, so we're at lines 52, 53, we see her saying exactly what Macbeth said at the end of the last scene, which is, come thick night. So exactly what Macbeth says is, stars hide your fires. And she's saying, come thick night and pile thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So they both want the night to be very dark and to hide what they want to do. So that a theme of appearance versus reality is repeated, the idea that they want their murder to be covered up. Let's turn now to page 34. She greets Macbeth, it's all very simple, and then she tells him exactly what to do. So we'll look at line 64. So if you're looking at the side of the page, you see 65, we're looking at the line just above it. And she says, your face, my thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. So she says, I can see you're troubled. It's written on your face. And she says, look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. So this is her direct instruction that when Duncan gets here, you need to hide that look on your face. You need to pretend like everything's fine and you are an innocent flower. The word dispatch at line 70 means management, so she plans to murder the king herself. And it's interesting that come rhymes with martyrdom there, so it's a nice poetic bit of verse. And lastly, she basically is saying we're not going to arouse suspicion. So it's a very strong scene. Very short one. The next one's even shorter when she greets them. And I'll give you some instructions for the booklet at the end of that.